This is the story of Hope Elementary. I started working with Hope Elementary in 2012. And at that time, there was a new principal that came, and I came to the university that was nearby. And at the school, there were 16 unfilled teacher vacancies, which meant that every single day, about 200 K-5 students either had a substitute or divided up among all the other schools in the building. That's about a quarter of the student body that every day didn't have a consistent teacher. So we were really struggling with teacher retention and teacher turnover at the school. Let me give you a little bit more background about Hope Elementary. It's one of the largest elementary schools in Colossal School District. So these are all pseudonyms. Hope is a pseudonym as well as Colossal School District. Colossal School District is in the top 10 largest school districts in the United States of America. Hope Elementary has a wonderfully linguistic and diverse student body as well as the staff. A lot of the students and family do struggle with issues and challenges of living in poverty. So almost all of them are food insecure. 10% identify as homeless, and even more are shelter insecure. Hope has had a long-standing partnership with the local research university, which we refer to as Urban Research University in this presentation. And Hope is a community partnership school. A community partnership school is a model of school, university, and community collaboration out of the University of Central Florida. They have all kinds of standards that have to be met in order for a school to be considered a community partnership school. So if you want to check them out, go to UCF's Center for Community Partnership Schools and you can learn more there. When the principal and I first started getting together in 2012, when we both were new at the school, we realized that we shared a passion for teacher professional learning. And we realized that if we came together with our knowledge and our passion, we could do something really different. And we really wanted to just make a difference for what was going on for students and kids there. So we came up with this theory of change. And so if you take a look at that triangle down there, I mentioned that Hope was a community partnership school. Well, community partnership schools have these arms: an academic arm, a healthcare arm, and a community arm. That's because community partnership schools have a healthcare partner, a community partner, and a university partner that help them make the school the hub of the local community. What I'm going to focus on, though, is just that left part, that academic arm. And you can see that all of that space in there, I'm going to show you all the thought and intent that went into rethinking what would that academic arm look like if the school and the university would come together and partner. So the principal and I said, okay, these are our 4 goals that we want to do. We want to increase leadership capacity. We want to transform teacher learning. We want to develop high quality new teachers, and we want to improve student learning. And all of this by transforming that academic arm in collaboration with the healthcare and the community arm would facilitate school renewal and hopefully pull Hope Elementary out of being a turnaround elementary school. So a turnaround is a designation by the Florida Department of Education, which means that the school is not meeting certain expectations on state standardized tests for student learning. And so they get that designation as a turnaround school, which usually means also increased high stakes accountability, scrutiny, a lot of pressure. And sometimes it can be very difficult to have autonomy and space to do things outside of what's being prescribed to you. However, the principal and I really felt like to do all this, we needed to place our emphasis on one key thing, and that was teacher leadership. So how are we going to really develop teacher leaders? Well, we created this customized teacher leader academy. And that's what I'm going to explain to you, all the thought and intent that went into this design of the professional learning at the school, really targeting and empowering teachers to become leaders, to transform the learning that was happening at Hope Elementary. Underneath all of what you're going to see are these shared beliefs. And so at the core of what we were doing, he and I really believed that if we're going to transform not just the school, then both the school and the university need to both renew themselves. And the only way that is possible is when we bring together the wisdom of practice with the wisdom of practitioners. And that all has to happen through collaboration, through a shared community that we would build. The second belief we had was that if we were going to actualize change, true change, not just surface level, but true fundamental change, We know that that takes time and that we have to have sustained collaboration, sustained commitment particularly from not only from the teachers, but from the school administration and from the university. This wasn't something we knew was going to happen overnight, but we knew if we stuck with it, that we could really make fundamental change. The third shared belief was at the core of all of this work were the relationships. That was the heartbeat of the work that was going on. And if we didn't have relationships, then none of this would be possible. So as we think about the design of the professional learning and the Teacher Leader Academy that went on, we had to make sure that there was ongoing and regular and constant contact, not only between the principal and myself, but also with the teacher leaders and their representatives and the university faculty. So there was just always ongoing communication. The fourth belief was that we weren't just going to do one thing, one type of intervention and be done. No, if we were really going to make change, then innovation had to be just part of what we did. And so we were going to be successful if we continually tried new things, gathered data about what we were doing, studied it, and then figured out how to do it better. And so really we brought this lens or this stance of teacher inquiry to everything we did. And the fifth one was that we really believe that professional learning is not a one-size-fits-all. It should be differentiated, it should be job embedded, it should be relevant, and it should be applicable. And the other important piece of what's going on is that we wanted to rethink not just professional learning at the school, but what graduate coursework, what master's degrees, what graduate certificates, what doctoral degrees at the university look like. And could we really reimagine what the curriculum looked like? So what we said was the school's needs and what was going on with teachers and leaders and students and all those data, that had to drive the professional learning of teachers. And it had to drive the curriculum for advanced credentials and coursework at the university. So let's come back to that community school model again and really break down what does that academic arm look like? Well, not all community partnership schools have a professional development school. Hope did. So what is a professional development school? Well, it's a school and a college of education coming together to form a really intentional partnership. And according to the National Association for Professional Development Schools, there are 9 essentials that distinguish a professional development school from any old partnership. So you can see here on the screen, this is just a summary of those 9 essentials, but they have to have a comprehensive mission beyond either institution. They have to be engaged in the clinical preparation of teachers. They have to commit to professional learning and leading for everyone. Reflection and innovation have to be part of everything that happens. They have to be committed to research and sharing of those results in multiple spaces. They must have articulated agreements that outline the responsibilities and the shared commitments between both of them. They have to have shared governance structure. It's not just one dominating it, but in this partnership, there's shared decision-making happening. There have to be boundary spanning roles, these positions that transcend the borders of schools and universities. And there also have to be shared resources and recognition of the hard work going on. If you want to learn more about professional development schools, I recommend going to www.napds.org. And there, if you click on the About tab and you click on 9 Essentials, you can get a direct digital PDF of the most recent edition of the 9 Essentials where you can learn more. Today, though, although all of these 9 Essentials undergirded Hope Elementary as an entire school, the rest of what I'm going to share with you is really going to focus on that third essential. What did professional learning and leading look like? So let's, again, break down that academic arm in the professional development school and specifically learning and leading. We had 5 building blocks of learning and leading happening at Hope. We had initial teacher certification, teacher leadership, teacher professional learning, teacher educator learning, and principal learning. At Hope, these were the different pieces we had in each one. So for initial teacher certification, we had an undergraduate teacher residency happening where juniors and seniors earning their bachelor's in elementary education we either at Hope or some of the other, we had like 4 other surrounding schools in the area, but Hope would host anywhere from 12 to 15 teacher candidates every single year, even though they could hold more, but they generally committed to 12 to 15 every single year. In building blocks 2 and 3, the teacher leadership and the teacher professional learning, that piece was the customized teacher leader academy that had differentiated professional learning and reimagined graduate degrees and graduate certificates, which I'm going to talk about a little bit more in a few seconds. In the 5th or 4th block, the teacher educator learning, we had those boundary spanning roles. We had partnership resource teachers, as well as university faculty who were teacher educators, and we had doctoral students as teacher educators. And so all of us were co-teaching and co-researching and co-planning and reading and studying what we were doing, and all of that contributed to our learning. And then the final block, principal learning, the principal was actually enrolled in the educational specialist degree in turnaround school leadership. So again, this is what all of the professional learning and leading looked like for the entire school, but I'm going to break it down one more, and I'm going to focus specifically on that teacher professional learning and that teacher leadership development in the customized teacher leader academy. So what is a customized teacher leader academy? This is an innovation that really simultaneously transforms school learning at the school site, as well as graduate coursework and learning at the university. And so what it does is it places the school community and the school needs as the central part of the curriculum for advanced coursework. And I'll talk a little more about what that means. The idea behind a customized teacher leader academy is to simultaneously transform and elevate teacher professional learning and graduate coursework both at the same time. And it is designed to bring together the school and the university around this shared mission of developing teacher leaders who are able to do 4 key things. They should be able to systematically study their own practice to develop critical data literacy skills. They should be able to effectively coach teacher candidates and teachers to improve student achievement. They should be able to skillfully facilitate job-embedded professional learning that improves instructional practice. And they should be able to intentionally develop a lens of equity to recognize and respond to and redress educational inequities happening so that all students are getting equitable opportunities for learning. So let's talk about how the learning in a teacher leader academy is different from your graduate coursework that we often get teachers enrolled in a master's degree or a graduate certificate. So let's think about that. If we were teaching a course at the university, where would it be? If we were teaching a typical master's course, well, it would be at the university, like I said. In a teacher leader academy, the master's course or the courses are taught at the school site. What would the curriculum look like? Well, traditionally, it would be very fixed and predetermined. We would lay out that content across those 15 weeks of the semester, and it typically wouldn't change that much. We would know what we were doing week 1, week 2, week 3. But in the Teacher Leader Academy, it's not fixed and predetermined. It's emergent and it's responsive, and it's based on the school's data and what's happening at the school, so that really everything is applicable to what's going on. In traditional graduate coursework, there'd be one university professor teaching. But in a Teacher Leader Academy, we have an entire instructional team that's got representation from both the school and the university, co-planning and co-teaching every session that we have. So when would that graduate coursework happen? Well, it often happens in a traditional sense outside of the school day, evenings, weekends, online. In a customized Teacher Leader Academy, it's a part of the school day. And that looks differently for Hope each year. Sometimes we did it in the morning, sometimes we did it in the afternoon, sometimes we move things around, but it was a part of the teacher work day. What does the academic calendar look like? Well, in traditional graduate coursework, it's aligned to the university. When the university starts at the end of August, the coursework begins. When it ends in December, at the end of the fall semester, the coursework ends. It picks up again in January, and then it ends in May. That's not the case in a Teacher Leader Academy. What we did was we aligned the courses to the school district calendar. So when the teachers were starting, we were starting right there with them at pre-planning, and we were bringing together more than one course to integrate them across an entire year. So we had this coherent curriculum across an entire academic year that threaded these ideas and scaffolded them and built upon them throughout the entire year. And then we ended when the school year ended. So let's talk about how is learning applied? Well, in a typical graduate coursework, you would learn or you would read something and discuss it, in essence, learning about theory, and then you'd be asked to go apply it to your practice. But a customized Teacher Leader Academy flips that on its head and it says, nope, we're going to immerse you and engage in practice. And then what we're going to do is intentionally connect that practice to theory. So it's almost like a backwards approach. Instead of going theory to practice, you're going practice to theory. And then again, what do the syllabi look like? Well, in a graduate coursework, it's pretty fixed and there's minimal negotiation. Teachers don't often have voice in the kinds of tasks or activities or assignments that they're being asked to do. But in the customized Teacher Leader Academy, it's tailored and it's continually negotiated to ensure that it's relevant, applicable, and it's meeting what's going on. I mean, let's face it, teachers just don't have time to be doing anything that's not directly applicable to what they're doing with students right now. So that's how graduate coursework looks a little different in a customized Teacher Leader Academy. The other important piece to all of this was that we incorporated these 6 signature pedagogies, and it was based on the work of Yendel Hoppe and Franco, who identified 6 signature pedagogies in professional development schools, that being practitioner research, focused observation, coaching and mentoring, co-teaching, reflection, and the fusion of practice and theory. You've already heard a little bit about those as I've started sharing, but each one of these signature pedagogies was woven throughout every year for the Teacher Leader Academy. So what did it look like? Like what was the design of the professional learning actually happening at Hope Elementary? Well, when the principal and I got together in 2012, we started dreaming up what would this look like. And he really wanted to find a way that he could meet the different needs of his staff. He had a core group of teachers that were really highly effective, that were thriving. And they didn't need the same professional learning as some of the new teachers or some of the veteran teachers who needed some more fundamentals of practice. So we developed this 3-tiered approach to rethinking professional learning at Hope. And so we had group 1 would be those highly effective teachers who were, they didn't need the same things as everyone else, almost like your enrichment group. And they were in the customized Teacher Leader Academy, and they were earning a master's, an educational specialist, or a doctoral degree. So all of their coursework that they were taking was in the customized Teacher Leader Academy was working towards one of those advanced degrees. Then we had a second group who had entered the customized Teacher Leader Academy, but they were earning their graduate certificate first. So they were focused on earning the Teacher Leadership Certificate, which had 4 courses in it: Teacher Leadership, Professional Learning, Inquiry, and there was a 4th one in there that I have to think about, but they had those 4 courses. And once they earned that Teacher Leadership Certificate, that could be applied to one of the advanced degrees. So they would be about a third of the way finished with an advanced degree. So oftentimes, once you were in the Teacher Leadership Academy, you stayed in. And even if you graduated, you weren't kicked out. So you were just part of that community, and teachers stayed. They wanted to be part of that community even once they earned their credentials. So earning the credential was a nice bonus, but it wasn't the driving force behind why they did it. They did it because they had this shared community and this shared commitment to the work. And then the third group were the new and experienced teachers who really needed to build those fundamentals of practice. And so who was leading each one of these groups? So great, we've got teachers organized into 3 different groups. Who was going to design and lead that professional learning? So the principal, the assistant principal, and the head teacher leader were responsible for overseeing the entire professional development plan. And then groups 1 and 2 in the customized Teacher Leader Academy, that was the responsibility of that collaborative instructional team and our boundary spanning role, the partnership resource teacher. And what was pretty fantastic is that the teachers in groups 1 and 2, which were the customized Teacher Leader Academy, their job for their coursework was to design and implement high quality professional learning for the other teachers in group 3. And so their ability to design and lead differentiated, meaningful professional learning acted as their performance assessment for their coursework for those graduate credentials. So it was pretty fantastic. So let's talk about then, how did all of this transform what professional learning at Hope looked like? So prior to 2013, professional learning at Hope Elementary was predominantly trainings. Everybody got the same thing. It was a one size fits all. And it was typically taught by the school administrator or a district trainer. And the reason you see 2013 in there is because although the principal and I met in 2012, it took us a year to really design and think about what would this look like. And we started implementing the Teacher Leader Academy in the fall of 2013. So post 2013, what did it look like at the school? Well, professional learning was primarily job embedded. It was differentiated based on teacher needs and teacher performance, and it was co-planned and co-facilitated by teacher leaders and university faculty so that teachers could really teach teachers. So I mentioned that research was a piece of what we did. And one of the things we were always doing, we were trying to figure out, what was the impact of our work and how might we continuously improve what's going on? So when you think about what does traditional research look like? Well, as researchers, we would read the literature, we'd identify a gap in the literature, and we develop and implement a study based on that gap to, contribute to the knowledge base. But how does the research look different in our partnership that we were doing? Well, we would identify a shared problem of practice, then we'd collaboratively develop and investigate it, and then we connect it to literature and contribute to the knowledge base. So just to give you an example, one of the shared problems of practice that we explored as we worked on this entire differentiated professional learning plan at Hope Elementary was to think about how could we understand the kind of influence the teacher leaders were having on students. So what did we do? We use collaborative inquiry to gather data and try to figure out what was that influence. And then we connected that work back to the literature on teacher leadership, hybridity theory, complexity theory, et cetera. So those weren't all the references we had. I just gave you a sample, but you can see we engaged in the problem of practice first, and then we connected it back to the literature. Okay, so you're probably wondering, what did you find out? Like, what really was the impact? I'm super excited to share this. This is just gets to me. So here was our big research question. This was our overarching one. How can schools and universities partner to develop teacher leadership capacity in a professional development school to actualize renewal in a turnaround school? And so we had sub-questions. How did the teacher leaders influence the students? How did student and teacher perceptions of the school culture and climate change as we implemented teacher leadership? And then how did, this is the biggie, this is what everyone seems to care about, how did the student achievement scores on the state standardized tests, how did they change as the teacher leadership capacity occurred? So we gathered, every year we gathered the same data basically. We had district-wide surveys that ascertained teachers, parents, and students' perception of the school culture and climate. We had the annual school grade. We had the students' performance on the state standardized test scores. We conducted interviews with the teacher leaders. We gathered their work products that they were doing as part of the coursework. We used their lesson plans that they were designing and leading for the other learning of the teachers in the building. We used rubrics to assess the professional learning communities, and the teacher leaders actually used the rubrics themselves to self-assess, and they had their teachers self-assess, and then we looked at that growth over time. And we used school documents and artifacts to try to capture what kind of leadership was going on. So we had examples of both qualitative and quantitative data that we were looking at. This is an simplification of the data analysis, but basically we coded the qualitative data, we analyzed the survey data, and then together the third phase of it was really ascertaining the big picture. What did we learn from it all? So how did teacher leaders influence students? They did it in several ways. One, they set the example. And so we just shared one quote up here to illustrate this from a teacher leader. There were more, but we can only, in the time frame, I only could give one example here. So teacher leaders help influence students at Hope because we model for them how to be leaders in the classroom. We also saw that teachers encourage and mentor students. and helping them to be part of additional activities, spending extra time with them to write speeches, to support their auditions, to engage in Math Bowl, to engage in these speech competitions. So there were all kinds of things that the teachers were doing to encourage and mentor the students. And they were always trying to find ways to help encourage leadership, whether it was part of their house system or encouraging students to give speeches to run for office, or whether it was having older students mentor the primary students. They were always trying to find ways to encourage students to step up and be leaders. So the second sub-question was about the stakeholder perception. And so these next few slides look at what were students, K-5 students, what were their perceptions of the culture and climate. And what this table here shows, this is, I just love this so much. This shows the change in perception from 2015 to 2018. And the reason we have this year's is because the survey wasn't available prior to 2015. So what's pretty fantastic is when you look across this category called My School, it showed a 7% increase in students' perceptions of the school. And I always love the bottom one too, because it goes with what we were saying before. So look at that bottom line. I have lots of ways to be involved at school. That went up from 69.4% to 93.3%. That's a 23.9% increase in 3 years. And again, remember, the teacher leaders were encouraging students and trying to help them build leadership capacity and get them involved. And so you can see how the data are lining up. In addition to the My School composite, the students were asked about their teachers, and you can see that this category also showed growth, with the largest growth happening that their teachers are helping them stay focused on learning was a key growth, as well as helping them fix their errors. So those were some key areas of growth that the teachers were really getting involved with students. This is going to matter too, because you're going to see this come out in the student grades when we start looking at Hope's performance as compared to 2 other relevant elementary schools and what their performance was. So I think this is really key. Students felt like teachers were helping them and were supporting their learning. And then when you think about their entire school experience, the students showed a 10.8% increase. And one of the biggest jumps right there, if you go down to about the 4th one, it says, my principal and teachers ask me what I think about school. And that went from 34.2% to 66.7%. That's a 32.5% increase. So you can see that the students really showed or really felt like their teachers and principals cared what they thought. They wanted their voice, they wanted their perspective in what was going on at the school. So those were student perceptions. Let's talk about teachers' perceptions all. So the teacher survey was divided up, and they had these, I think there are 7 composite scores. So everything bolded on that table on the left, those are the different categories that there were several questions in. So teacher leadership, school leadership, community support, etc. And we ranked these from the largest growth all the way to the fewest growth. Take a look all. The number 1 area in which there was growth was in teacher leadership. So this shows the change in teachers' perceptions from 2013, the start of the Teacher Leader Academy, to 2017 when we did this part of the study. And you'll see that there was a 40.1% increase in teachers' perceptions. And we compared the teachers' perceptions at Hope to the change in the district leadership. So just that first category alone, Hope improved 40.1%. Across the district, it was an improvement of only 5.3%. And now remember, I said we compared Hope to 2 other elementary schools. These were like elementary schools. Both of them were also turnaround elementary schools. They were not as large as Hope. Hope was significantly larger than they were, but they had demographics that were similar to Hope. And you can see elementary school 2 did show improvement in teacher leadership, not quite to the same extent as Hope, but there are similar parallels here in this one. Elementary school 3, teachers did not feel like the school culture and climate was improving at all. Okay, it absolutely went down from them being a turnaround elementary school. And that's important because wait till you see what happens on the student state standardized tests. I want to break down for you though the teacher's perception when we look at that first category, that teacher leadership component. Take a look. Now this is just looking at Hope Elementary and the percent change. So this actually shows the breakdown. So if you take a look, The first line, for example, teachers have an appropriate level of influence on decision-making in the school. In 2013, only 18.2% of teachers at the school felt that way. By 2017, 77.8% felt that way. So look at that increase. That's a huge increase. Whereas in the district, it only went up about 7 points. Take a look at the jump in the second one that's highlighted. The faculty has an effective process for making group decisions to solve problems. Went from just under 30 to 80%. That's a 50% increase. Take a look at the other highlighted ones. Teachers are trusted to make sound professional decisions, 37.5 to 86.5. And did I mention again that this is a turnaround elementary school, which means that it's got immense state accountability pressures, people always looking over their shoulder, wondering if they're on this standard on this particular day. So there's always that continuous scrutiny of what's going on. And yet somehow the teachers and the leaders, I think largely because the principal was able to push back, and they had the community of all of us there supporting them and saying, take this risk, go ahead, you are a professional, make those sound decisions. They felt empowered to do so. And again, you can see that also was one of the indicators they're relied upon to make decisions, increased 40%. Teachers are encouraged to participate in school leadership roles. Look at that jump, 55.3 to 95.8. Teachers are effective leaders in this school, 65.2% in 2013, 88.5% in 2017. And the last one, teachers support one another, went up from 89.4 to 96.2. So just again, take a moment to take all that in. That's a huge gap, or I'm sorry, a huge jump from the 2013 to 2017 in just the teacher leadership piece. I also thought it was important to look at not just the teacher leadership component, but also the instructional practices piece. So this is teachers' perceptions of what the instructional practices and their support that they had for instruction at the school. This is again the percentage change, and it's going to compare it to the change across the district, as well as the change in elementary school 2 and school 3. And take a look, Hope jumped 20.8%, whereas the district only improved 7.2, elementary school 2 9.9, and elementary school 3 actually went down 11.8%. Again, you see this piece about teachers having that autonomy to make the instructional decisions. Look at that, 42.7 increase. That's a huge percentage increase. Teachers are encouraged to try new things. Again, it's a turnaround elementary school, yet we're seeing teachers saying, I'm being encouraged to try new things to better my instruction. Teachers work in professional learning communities. That went up as well, 10.4%. And teachers get support that help them improve their practice. That also went up almost 10%. All right, so those were student perceptions and then teacher perceptions. Now you're wondering, okay, but what difference did this make on the state standardized tests on student learning? And while we know that student learning can be measured in many other ways, at least in Florida, the state standardized testing scores are probably the most number one important thing that policymakers and others really seem to care about. So let's take a look. Whew, okay, Hope Elementary, right there, you can see the percentage of students that scored proficient or higher. So 36% scored proficient or higher. This was in 2018 in English language arts. 46% of the school, again, in math scored proficient or higher, and 45% in science scored proficient or higher. You might be thinking those aren't very high percentages. And while that is true, okay, and they're under the district, that is much better than where they were. Okay, but still not good enough. We still need to get at least to the district or higher. But take a look at elementary school 2 and elementary school 3. Elementary school 2 only had 24, 20, and 15% score proficient and higher. They got an F. Remember in those previous tables where their perceptions were likened to almost the same as Hope, but it didn't translate to what was going on here to actually student performance. And remember the elementary 3, how their teachers and students, all of their perceptions were going down, that the school culture and climate was terrible. Well, they got their C, but at what cost, right? I mean, because students weren't happy, teachers weren't happy, but Hope Hope got its seat, and it had incredible improvements in teacher leadership, morale, school culture and climate, students' perceptions of what's going on. So all in all, we see a holistic improvement at Hope since the inception of that Teacher Leadership Academy. So in summary, what does all of this mean? Well, since we launched that Teacher Leader Academy, student academic achievement improved, students' perception of school culture and climate improved, as did teachers, and we saw an increase in student and teacher leadership in a variety of ways. So again, you could come at this through a variety of ways, but when we look at it, there was so much intentional thought and complexity to designing all of the professional learning. But in the end, it not only did it improve the school culture and climate, but it also translated to improve student learning. If you're curious to learn more about Hope and some of the other intricate pieces to it, please check out these articles. There are some others, but these are at least three that talk a little more about Hope and that hone in on specific aspects of what's going on. You can also feel free to give me an email, shoot an email to me at rebecca.west.burns@unf.edu, or you can go to my website, www.rebeccawestburns.com, and you can get my contact information there as well. So I hope you enjoyed learning about Hope, working with them from about 2012 until 2018 and 19 it was just a truly special time. And the teachers and the principal are our friends, they're colleagues. And when I see what they're doing on Facebook and I see all the amazing thing happens, I consider myself lucky and proud to have been part of something so special. So keep on leading, everybody. Thanks.